So, well, what, yeah, just a little bit of background. So I've been doing web performance for quite a while, and like when I mean quite a while. So my opinion for the longest time with font use was no. If you care about performance, just don't do it. So it was. I was kind of briefly looking into that. Let me see. Uh, font face. Doing like a little bit of research, kind of. Pa, pa, pa. GZPR font files in 2009. I did a little bit of research, like, okay, what do we gzip and what do we not? And it was like, okay, if you're going to use those fonts, which probably you shouldn't because, web performance, if you care about it. But if you do, you should, gzip the fonts. And then uh, I think uh, yeah, then took a second look, like Paul Irish, now of Google Chrome, asked, hey, what about WOF? And I was like, yeah, let me take a look at it. And yeah, you don't have to gzip WOF files. So that was pretty much the extent of my font knowledge. And I was working at Yahoo back then, consulting for different Yahoo properties. And some of them wanted to use fonts, but we're like, okay, if you worry about performance, no. So then I joined Facebook, and lo and behold, no fonts there. So this is how it should be. But this was like a lot of a long time ago. So eventually, I joined Etsy a couple of years ago, almost 2 years now. And part of my assignment was to look at just do audit of the website and see what we can improve. And yeah, Etsy's website uses fonts. I was like, oh. I don't really know much about fonts, and I wish I could. I wish there was a book like once upon a time, high performance websites and stuff. I was like, hey, uh, maybe what a book like this would look like. And I started working on, I don't know if you can see, my table of contents, where in chapter 2, I mean, I never really finished or anything, but after the chapter 1, which was what like general things, why fonts, why not fonts, and modern things like preloading and font display optional and or swap and stuff like this. So then the next chapter, I thought it's going to be mostly about fallbacks, because you can load fonts, but there's cases where they're not going to load, either intentionally because let's say if you detect low battery or devices that don't support it, you should be ready for a fallback, and you should be ready for layout shifts. So yeah, I was thinking like my table of contents for chapter 2 is just one point saying tools, and I was like, okay, let's see what tools we have out there, and that's what led me to what I'm talking about today. So it's a bit of intro. This is what the old school is. Like you add the web font, and then you start putting a bunch of fallbacks, hoping that at least one of these is on the system, and at the very end, like a generic font name. Uh, yeah, I copied this from GitHub, so these two you shouldn't use anymore. But we can probably talk about this a little later. Um, so in the olden time, there's you know, Monica Nicolescu has this wonderful tool about matching the styles. Um, so let's say you have some web font, and then you have your fallback, and then you try to play with all kinds of stuff to make the fallback look similar to, or almost exactly the same as is the actual font, which is good. The problem with this is that you're tweaking the styles of an element. So if you have different elements, let's say if your target element has different line heights, then you have to think of fallbacks for the different elements. It's not very generic. Also, you're applying those styles to that element with or without fonts, without the custom font being loaded. So you probably need some sort of JavaScript and say, okay, if this font is loaded, then apply these styles. Otherwise, do all these fallback things. Not ideal. So in the new school, we can focus on the fallback of the font itself, not of any of the elements that are being styled. So it looks like you create a new font face declaration, give it some name that you want, and then you use local to load a locally available font, and then tweak this using those so-called font descriptors. There's 4 of them that we're going to take a look at, and use this in the font train. Let's say web font, comma fallback, and then sans serif or anything at the end. So what are these font descriptors? I can put them in 2 groups. One is font metrics, like ascent, descent, and line gap. And the other one is CSS specific. These are font specific. This is the CSS invention. And let's take a look at what these exactly mean. I stole this from Katie Hempenia's article on fonts on somewhere on the Google blogs. So these are the metrics that we talk about. So this is the text. And the ascent is like all those things. And the descent is right here. Line gap is, the space between 2 lines. So you can inspect these in various fonts using, these are font metadata. Those metrics are available for every font. So there's a couple of sites that I want to show you. Let's start closing things. If you haven't seen, this is a good one. So you give it a font, and it tells you things about it, shows you the glyphs and stuff like this. The other one that I think I kind of prefer is this font drop, because it comes with, it's already loaded some font. So if you go to data here, search for a line gap maybe. Yeah, so you can see, so this is the metadata for the font. It has these are kind of part of the font, ascender, descender, and line gap, those 3. Yeah, this is specified for the custom font. The trouble is it's also available in more than one place. So this is this table, this metadata table, but it's, this one doesn't have it. Or yeah. So there's this other Windows metrics table. There it is. Typo ascender, typo descender, line. Yeah. So the different operating system read them from different metadata, and they're not always the same in all fonts, and the line gap is not always 0. But that doesn't really bother us, but just something to know, that those 3 are available as part of the font. And the other CSS invention is size adjust, which is just a proportional stretch. Like this is your original. If you make it smaller, if you make it bigger, it adjusts both width and height. So size adjust is the only thing that we have to adjust the width. Everything else is correcting the height. So the strategy is to start with a good size adjust to match the width of the text. And then, because it's my over or under correct, then use one of those 3 or all of them to fix the height. So yeah, there are various tools that I was looking at. There's Brian's, where you have, let's say, so this is one of them is the fallback, and one of them is the yeah. So here, let's say we're adjusting the size. As you can see here in the size adjust, we're playing with this property. And if we make it match, then more or less, then we can use one of the other ones to kind of say, ah, very cool. So yeah, so this is kind of a manual process using this text as a measurement. There's multi-oobles too that I kind of had the most hopes for, because it's automatic. So it renders a text, this one here, and the fallback, and then plays with size adjust until they match. The problem is it only works with preset of Google fonts, and I was like, okay, I can upload mine. Fortunately, this is not open source, and so when you choose the font, it adjusts the size and always uses Arial as a backup, as a fallback. Oh boy. Let me know in the chat if it's too loud outside, because I hear a lot of nailing things. Yeah. So this is Maltese tool. Has a really nice view here where you can see what the results look like and how they line up. It's pretty cool. There's a little bit of difference here. So yeah. The problem is with different sizes, when you start resizing, then things may move a little bit. So it's not perfect, and it never is. You see with my tool as well. Okay, so there's another hidden version of stay. Kind of a non-advertised version of Maltese tool, still on some Netlify thing, that in addition to size adjust, uses ascent override to fix the height after the size adjust has adjusted the font proportionally. So this is just one of those three. And there's some tools, some libraries like Nuxt. I actually contributed a little bit to that, and it's supposed to do all of this automatically, so you don't have to worry, but I mean, you have to use Nuxt. So it's not widely applicable. So how do we find the best fallback? So this is the plan. This is the what Maltese tool is doing, and like this thing, and what I thought was probably the best idea. So you take your web font and then some fallback. In Maltese case, it's always Arial. Then you render some text, and then you start tweaking the descriptors up and down until they really match the width and the height of the text that was rendered with the web font. Measure and repeat until they match. So I don't have a problem with those two, but I was just wondering about the other ones. So first of all, why only Google Fonts? You should use any, and then why Arial? I think the general thinking is that Arial has been around since the 80s, 70s, and it should be on every system. But turns out that it's not the case, because Arial is a commercial font, and it's not. Reportedly some Android distributions don't include Arial because they have to pay, and if you want to make the cost of your device as low as possible, you save on everything, including Arial. And Arial is not always the best. Like some fonts don't look like Arial. I mean, a lot of them don't. So that's where this modern font stacks comes into the picture. Beautiful website that has different categories, like transitional, old style, humanist, and then if you look for Arial, yeah, so Arial is of the neo-grotesque type, but and it's sans serif, right? But there's other sans serif that are closer maybe to your font, so Arial is not always the best choice. And you have, let's say, in Etsy's case, for example, the custom font look the closest to Avenir, and you have on different operating systems, you have different fallbacks. So this is I mean, I don't think the site has been updated in a while, but it's still amazing that at least for starting point, you can see what looks like my site, like what are different shapes and sizes that look like the closest to mine. So then I can start there. And yeah, and struck me. why would I only use one area? Because I can use more. I can have one that looks good on Mac with using fonts that are available on a Mac, and then use one that is available on Windows, another one that it's whatever operating systems you want to target. So you don't have to stop at Arial, and you can continue adding those fallbacks because they don't really cost that much. Then the other question is what text to render for the measurement. So as you saw, Malthus2 is using lorem ipsum. That's not really English, and Brian's phone is using a little bit of text. So I looked into this research from Peter Norvig, looking at the frequency of letters in the English language. And I tried using ChatGPT back then, last year, to write a text, because you can just repeat all of these. Like I can have 12% of my string is all E's and all that stuff, but that's not fun. So I was able to generate some sort of text that is almost, I mean, it's nonsensical, but kind of represents the frequency of letters in English more or less closely. So the blue one is Norvig's research, and this is, I call it tall giants, because there's tall giants often need to rest, and open roads invite no pause. So and this is where mine is more or less following the Norvig. And if you use lorem ipsum, it's kind of all over the place. Like it has no W's, no Y's, no K's, and barely any H's and stuff. So yeah, so this is the text that I'm going to use for measuring. So yeah, obviously this is English, and it's just like general English for millions of books. So if you want to be really, really specific, then you can probably query your database and find the frequency of letters in your website and use that as a text. And then which descriptors do we want to tweak? Like we saw in Martuble's case, it's just only one from the height. So yeah, the idea is, okay, we can read those three that we talked about: the line height, line gap, ascender and descender. That's a good starting point. So we don't have to do too much guessing and measuring. So we start with these, and then we measure size. I mean, with size adjusted, just brute force, try it until it matches. And because chances are, once you match the width, the height's going to be off, then you can tweak one of these. I decided to leave line gap as it is. I don't just leave it at least one thing based on the actual font. And this is the tool that I came up with, which is why we're here. Yeah, here we choose a font, say this guy, and we read. So yeah, in this case, this font line gap is not 0, but something else. So we're going to keep this forever. And we start with this ascent and descent. Sorry. And then we choose a fallback, because I know this is a serif font. So I think Georgia would be a good one. So you saw that little animation. It's on purpose, kind of just to see how the matching, like I had to delay the whole thing just to match that height. So here we've calculated that we have to make our fallback font a little bit bigger. We leave the line gap, don't touch it. And then with the measurement, we adjusted the ascent not to be what it was. The original is 75, but with the measurement, we found that 69 actually matches the after size adjust has fixed it, and we keep the descent the same, because something has to stay the same, right? So we just move one. Yeah, I should have made a point of this, but when you tweak, let's see, where is this? When you tweak the ascent and descent, you don't actually stretch the font in any way. You don't modify the font. We're just changing the space here. So whichever of those you want to play with, like I said, we're leaving line gap alone. Whichever of these, it's going to affect the height of the whole thing without really messing up with the font. So yeah, so this is the text that kind of matches the language. So it starts okay, then it kind of, so the red is the fallback, the blue is the font that we're trying to match. So it kind of moves a little bit because the frequency of letters doesn't have, every font has different size letters and stuff. So at some point it catches up, then it goes a little bit ahead. So, but in the long term, in the longer run, should I say, if we scroll all the way, it lines up perfectly because that's the calculations. It lined up here, was a little bit behind, lined up here, was a little bit ahead here, but in the overall grand scheme of things and the number of frequency of letters in English, it lined it up. So this is kind of the result. So the other feature is now to tweak, if you want, the ascent override. And if you tweak this, like if you look at ascent, descent is now 25. So if you increase the ascent, the descent automatically will go down. So let's say if we make this 70, the descent is now 24, it used to be 25. Why would you want to do that is because I think in general, if you line up this is called the baseline here. If you line up the baselines, it's supposedly more readable. So yeah, so now they line up. If you look at the Z here, see, this is too much. This is too little. There's usually a few right answers, but yeah, we can take kind of an average correct thing. You can play with bold and italic, see if it still looks good. So this is the result. And this you copy and paste to your fallback and then repeat for all the operating systems that you want to support, and you want to find the font closest to your custom font. And so there's the little test area. So ooh, look at that, it matches so well. And then you can kind of toggle the layout shifts and see what that is like. Okay. And then you can kind of overlap them. The red is the fallback, and yeah, like I said, it's not always perfect, and that depends on. See, it starts well, it often ends great, like here, but in the meantime, it may go kind of in and out of phase, so to speak. And that it's more, yeah, it's more visible when you start going to really small text. So see, like if you look here, now this is not a perfect match, but it hovers over the correct things. So here, I think I found a place where it was a little bit below. Yeah, right. But yeah, probably the bottom is more visible. Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, on average, it's great, but it's not perfect. There can always be cases where that's not correct. If you want to do a different language, there's a hidden feature in the console. You can type window text and change that text that I use for measurement. And that's it for the demo, I think. Yeah. The bad news. Like I said already, it's not always guaranteed to be perfect. That depends on the text, depends on what text you use to measure, and then depends on the actual text you use. Like not every heading of your product title, let's say, it's going to be the perfect distribution of letters in the English language or in any language. Yeah. One big problem with Safari is that it only supports size adjust. It doesn't support any of the others. So that often can result in actually worse results than not using any fallback at all. Depends on the fallback as well, because sometimes you adjust the size and it becomes too fat compared to the other one. So you can only use size adjust and you cannot use any of the heights to correct it. So depending on what the results, you can decide to say no to Safari. Yeah, that's the sad news, is that not all of the fonts are available to local. If we look at, how am I doing on time actually with my, oh, okay. Like if you look at the system UI font, like this is the one that is used, like when you say, like when you see a font family system UI, then every operating system uses a different one. Like Windows uses Segoia UI, and Apple uses this kind of hidden, I think we initially called San Francisco, now it's system font or anything, but with a weird name with a dot in it. And this one is not available. Believe me, I tried all kinds of names to pass to local. Nope. It's just a system font that Apple doesn't allow you to use. So not everything like their latest, greatest system UI font you cannot use as local. The other thing I wanted to mention is that, yeah, I was thinking, okay, I'm on a Mac and I want to use Segoia UI for Windows fallbacks. So I'm just going to go to the Microsoft.com and download their font and use it. And then I tried on actual Windows system and the results are ever so slightly different. So yeah, I think that ideally the tool should be used on the OS that you target, which means it should work on Androids and stuff. Yeah, if none of that really matters, if you don't, I mean, go back to saying no to fonts. This is the current state of the art is, just use system UI, leave none of that Apple system blink muck stuff. This is kind of the easiest thing to do with fonts. And because this was focusing mostly on the fallbacks and layout shifts and stuff, if you want to know more about performance in fonts, last year's at Performance Now, Mandy Michael gave a talk, and she has a wonderful list of resources on GitHub where to learn more. And Paul Calvano, in attendance here, I think, gave a talk, and he's going to give it again in Hamburg, I think. Yeah, and yeah, this is my website that I started when I was thinking, I should write a book about all the stuff that I wish I could read, and I started, but it's not really been maintained or anything. I kind of lost. Yeah, maybe, hopefully one day. But yeah, there's some articles already that you can hear. Like I spent a lot of time on the font jargon because it seems like it's a lot of confusion what we call font and what we call typeface and what we call characters versus glyphs and all that stuff. I love this one on extreme font subsetting. So we can subset fonts, right, to just only use the one, only the font, the web font only has the characters that we care about. And I was thinking, okay, what if you go even further and delete most of them? So in this case, this is the fallback, this is the actual font, and then, yeah, these are fallbacks again, so it looks kind of a murder letter kind of thing, because this is, this is the only, I only subset to be able to spell high performance web fonts. Everything else is just, yeah, default font. And yeah, this is all I had. So Sia, what do you think? How do we proceed from on? Do I stop sharing?